Hey friends, Sean from Draft Therapy here, and on today's review for you, I'm finally checking out a stout from Arvon. Oatmeal Stout is a 4.2% stout from Arvon Brewing Company in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I've mentioned before several times on this channel that I like to try styles that might not necessarily be, the norm, what I'm used to from a brewery. So for example, from Arvon, I've had IPAs, I've had lagers, but I've never had a stout. Now I know that they're not a stranger to the style by any means, but it's new to me. So I want to check this one out. I'm kind of excited. But first, I want to thank my executive producers, Brian Kramer and David Jeffries, for helping to bring this review to you today. If you'd like to become a producer, help out the channel, or maybe even just buy me a beer, take a look at my Patreon at patreon.drafttherapy.com, where you can get early access to these videos and a few other special perks available only to my patrons. So let's take a look at the label. First, I wanted to talk, this label is kind of like a throwback looking label. It's on black paper. It's got a nice texture to it. There's a red triangle here, and it kind of reminds me of like a 70s, late 70s, early 80s, kind of almost futuristic font for that time period. It says Oatmeal Stout. It has the Arvon Mountains in this light blue color, and in the darker blue, or maybe like almost a dark bluish green, has the trees and the Michigan, state, the Mitten, the Upper Peninsula on there. And then if we turn it to the side here, this is where it gets a little bit interesting. It's a black label with gray writing. It says Oatmeal Stout, and next to that, they've actually misspelled stout. It says sout. It says 1 pint, and as I mentioned before, it says 4.2% alcohol by volume, proudly brewed and canned by Arvon Brewing Company in Grand Rapids, Michigan. The only reason I bring up that it says on this label 4.2% is because when I was looking up this beer, on their website, it says 5.4%. On the label, it says 4.2%. I'm going to go with what it says on the label for right now, but maybe it is 5.4%. Maybe there's a different version of it. I don't know, but I'm going to go with what it says on the label. It says 4.2%. This cost me $5 for a single. I only bought a single. So let's go ahead and, we'll do the thing. We'll crack it open, put a nose on the glass, and all that good stuff. So let's go ahead and get to it. I do think it's a pretty cool label. It's really different than a lot of the other stuff that Arvon does. But putting a nose on it, oh, looks pretty dark. It's got that nice, like, roasted barley kind of smell, nice malty smell. But yeah, it smells like, what you would expect to smell of an oatmeal stout. It's got those deep, rich kind of flavors, at least out of the can. Let's go ahead and pour it. Coming out dark out of the can, but slightly a little lighter than I was expecting, again at 4.2%. If we're going to go by what the label says, that's kind of what I would expect, though. I wouldn't expect it to be super dark, super thick. It did look pretty thin on the pour. On the finish here, we've got about a finger, maybe, about a finger is being generous, a finger of head. If you look at the overhead, as you can see, it's got a bit of a tannish colored head, a little bit off-white, not necessarily what I'd call coffee, but it's just a little bit tan, maybe shading almost to a khaki kind of color. If we hold it up to the light here, it is, it's opaque. There is no seeing through that. It is dark. Looking at the bulb of the glass, it has a cola kind of look to it. It had a cola look to it as I was pouring it as well. So let's get a better nose on the glass here. Yeah, just, again, same deal as what I got out of the can. A lot of that kind of roasty smell, roasty malts, roasted barley kind of smell to it. Has a deep, rich kind of aroma. Maybe almost getting a little bit of a dark fruit kind of aroma here. So I'm expecting this to be really light, but let's give it a taste and we'll see if it is or not. So cheers. So the mouthfeel on this one, really light, very light. Almost to the extent of it being so light that I would almost categorize it in like a porter kind of category. It doesn't have a real thick mouthfeel to it. It's really, like I said, again, really on that light side, a little bit on the crisp side actually, but it kind of reminds me of more of a porter, at least on the mouthfeel department. Let's pour a little bit more in there and let's get a little bit of the taste and we'll talk about it, walk it through here. Nice carbonation kind of rising up on that second pour. So up front, the flavor, it's very light, very thin as it comes through on the beginning. But then you start to get this really dark, roasty kind of flavor to it. It has a really just kind of smokiness to it. It's got a really dark on the back end, on the tail end, on after the swallow, and it kind of sits on the back of your tongue. It has a really deep, rich, chocolatey taste to it. Very, just very dark, like bitter chocolate, super dark chocolate. Like I said, you get the kind of that roastiness. You get a little bit of a kind of a cola flavor in there as well. It's very light though. You're getting a lot of those roasty, kind of smoky notes to it. A lot of, roasted kind of barley, dark malty flavors to it. A lot of, like I said, a lot of that kind of chocolatey bitterness comes through on the tail end. It's not super complex. It doesn't, at the very beginning, when you first take that sip, it's very light, very, like, there's not a whole lot of flavor there at first, and you pick up a lot of the flavor on the swallow. So on a lot of the, the swallows where everything comes through. At the beginning, it's very light, just not a lot going on, just on the upfront, but on the finish, on the follow-up, on the swallow, that's where it starts to pick up kind of that cola quality. You get a little bit of a cola kind of sweetness on there too. You get that roasty flavor. You get a lot of that smoky flavor, that smokiness, a lot of that chocolatey kind of flavor comes through at the tail end. Oatmeal stouts generally I think of as being a little bit sweeter than regular stouts. I know it's not a milk stout, so those are even sweeter than oatmeal stouts. It's just got a really super light mouthfeel to it. It's, I don't know when this was canned. I don't see a canned on date at all on this, but, it's late August at this point, or, I'm recording this on the 22nd of August. So it's getting later in the summer. This is a really nice kind of light stout. There's no such thing as stout season, but if you're looking for a lighter kind of stout to quench a thirst, I think that this is a good kind of candidate for that. Now, again, I'm confused if it's 5.4%, if it's 4.2%, going off the label again, 4.2%. But regardless, 4.2, 5.4, I know that's kind of a big divide, but it is super light. It's just like a super hot weather kind of stout if you're into stouts during the heat of the summer, which you should be because stouts are great all the time. But this fits in that kind of category. I don't know if I'd go after this during kind of the winter months because it just has that, it's so thin, it's so light. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more flavor on the upfront. But it's like I said, it borders, like I said, from the pour, it borders on kind of that porter territory. It's almost light enough that you could probably say this was a porter. It could be a stout, like it says on the label, but regardless, it's just a really light stout. If you're looking for something like that for those hotter summer months, this fits that bill. But if you're looking for something just really super complex, deep, dark, and rich, it is deep, dark, and rich, but it's just not complex in the same kind of light as I would say something like, just a regular full-bodied stout would be. It's a very light-bodied stout, borderline porter. All right, friends, that has been Oatmeal Stout from Arvon Brewing Company. Have you had this one before? Have you had other stouts from Arvon? Do you know what the actual ABV on this beer is? Let me know in the comments down below while you're down there. If you like beer, you might want to subscribe and click that bell because I'm here talking about beer twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's all for free for viewers just like you. As long as you sit here and you watch it, it's free for you. I'm not going to charge you for it. You might miss your newest favorite if you're not subscribed and getting those notifications. So until next time, I'm Sean from Draft Therapy. Thanks for stopping by. Remember, drink craft beer, support your local breweries. These guys are in Grand Rapids. And most importantly, don't forget to treat yourself to a little draft therapy. Thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by, and see you next time. Cheers.